Chapter 8. Weed Pests of Ornamental Plants. Learning Objectives. After study of the material in this chapter, you should be able to 1. Describe cultural control practices for ornamentals that will reduce weed problems. 2. Describe the ways that weed plants and seeds are introduced to plant beds. 3. Explain precautions to take when using herbicides in ornamental beds. 4. Explain the difference between selective and non-selective herbicides. Terms to know. Soil fumigation. Competition. Chapter 8. Weed pests of ornamental plants. Many kinds of plants become weed pests in landscapes. Both weed plants and seeds can be introduced to a site in sod, nursery stock containerized and balled materials, and on equipment that brings them in from an infested site. Wind, water, birds, and other wildlife species also disperse weed seeds. Developing a weed management program. A successful weed management program involves 3 steps: understanding weeds, identification and life cycle. Preparing the site by eliminating perennial weeds and sedges before planting. Using a combination of methods to maintain the site. Understanding weeds. The first step in developing a successful weed management program is identifying the weeds and learning about their life cycles. Some of the more common weeds of ornamentals are described at the end of this chapter. Refer to the Resources section for weed identification guides. Read the section entitled Identifying Weeds in Chapter 4 to review weed life cycles and methods of reproduction. Site preparation. The most important weed management tasks are done before planting. Good site preparation includes detecting perennial weeds and controlling them before planting. Once a planting bed is established, manual or mechanical control of perennial weeds is difficult and costly. It may be beneficial to treat the entire area with a broad-spectrum herbicide. When a site is heavily infested with perennial broadleaf weeds or sedges, consider soil fumigation treatment. Soil fumigants are applied as a gas, solid, or liquid, and they kill most organisms living in the soil. Because fumigants are highly toxic, it is important to carry out each stage of the fumigation process with care to ensure the safety of the fumigator and the effectiveness of the treatment. Always refer to the product label for details and precautions. Soil should be cultivated to a depth of 6 to 8 inches 7 to 10 days before and again immediately before fumigation. Fall is an excellent time to fumigate because soils are warm and proper moisture levels are easier to attain. Depending on the fumigant, you may need to wait 2 to 3 weeks after treatment before planting. After fumigating the site, avoid reintroducing weeds. Clean equipment such as a tiller or tractor before using it in the fumigated area. Do not add topsoil, unless it has also been fumigated. Use only clean composts. Control creeping perennial weeds in the surrounding beds and turf. A soil test should be done to determine pH and nutrient content. Adjust pH and apply fertilizer to match the pH and nutrient needs of the species to be planted. Weeds occupy open spaces. Designing the planting bed to use all the bed space will increase competition and keep the sunlight that weeds need for growth from reaching the soil surface. Purchase plants from nurseries that have a good reputation for providing healthy, pest-free plants. When ornamental plants are healthy and growing well, they shade out many weeds and prevent their growth. Site maintenance. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as a maintenance-free landscape, but once perennial weeds are removed, other weed problems can be eliminated with minimal effort. One of the most important steps in preventing weeds in ornamentals is to apply a 2 to 4 inch layer of mulch. Mulches control weeds by depriving them of light. Organic mulches such as pine bark mulch, pine bark nuggets, and compost, or inorganic mulches such as gravel or stones may be used. When mulches are too fine, too thick, or begin to decompose, they stay wet between rains, allowing weeds to germinate and grow directly in the mulch. Landscape fabrics are often used in combination with mulches. They allow water and air to penetrate soil, but prevent weeds from emerging. Do not use black plastic under mulch because it prevents the free passage of water and air. When small numbers of weeds are present, it may be most economical to remove them by hand or hoe, mechanical control. Weeds should be removed when they are young, before they compete with ornamentals and before they set seed. To prevent the spread of weed seeds, tools used to control weeds should be cleaned before they are taken to another job site. Herbicides. Although herbicides are a valuable part of a weed control program, the use of herbicides without preventive cultural and mechanical weed control practices will not result in high-quality, weed-free landscape plantings. Landscape herbicides may be grouped into various categories based on their general mode of action or time of application. The proper herbicide for each situation will be dictated by the plant species located in the bed, weed species, and replanting plans. When using herbicides around ornamental plants or in beds intended for ornamentals, consider several factors. In ornamentals and toughgrass, non-selective herbicides can cause severe plant injury, phytotoxicity, if the spray solution touches the foliage or green bark of desirable plants. Do not use non-selective herbicides under windy conditions. Contact herbicides kill plants quickly, often within hours of application. Contact herbicides may be classified as selective or non-selective. They generally do not work as well as systemic herbicides for controlling perennial weeds. In contrast to the quick kill observed with contact herbicides, systemic herbicides kill plants over a period of days or a few weeks. Systemic herbicides are also classified as selective or non-selective. Pre-emergence herbicides form the base of a chemical weed control program in landscape sites and are used primarily to control annual grasses and broadleaf weeds. Due to their persistence in the soil, pre-emergence herbicides control susceptible weeds for an extended period, generally 2 to 4 months. Although the persistence of these herbicides in the soil is an advantage in terms of length of weed control, it may be a disadvantage if replanting operations are planned. Read the herbicide label to determine the length of time to wait before it is safe to replant the treated site. Post-emergence herbicides have little, if any, residual soil activity. They are useful to control perennial grass and broadleaf weeds that are not controlled by pre-emergence herbicides. Identifying weeds. Examples of common grass, broadleaf annual, broadleaf biennial, and broadleaf perennial weeds that invade the landscape are described below, along with suggested control measures. Grasses. Summer annual grass. Sandspur or sandbur germinates in the spring, grows during the summer and early fall, and dies with the first heavy frost. Sandspur tends to be a problem on sandy soils from the coastal plain to the sandhills. Pull by hand in small areas. Apply mulch 2 to 3 inches deep to ornamental bed areas to suppress germinating weed seeds. Pre-emergence herbicides can be applied in early spring and again in 60 days. Summer perennial grass. Bermuda grass is a creeping perennial that is dormant during the winter and buds out from underground roots, rhizomes, the following spring. It blooms throughout the summer. In plant beds, ground cover fabrics will suppress, but not completely control, Bermuda grass. Hand pulling is not effective because the underground rhizomes are hard to pull up completely. The rhizomes that escape from hand pulling soon shoot up more plants. Selective grass herbicides can be used to control Bermuda grass in plant beds. Broadleaf annuals. Winter annual. Carolina geranium or wild geranium is also called cranesbill. Stems are hairy and reddish. Leaves are round, but deeply lobed. The leaves are often on long petioles. The purple to pink flowers have 5 petals. Apply 2 to 3 inches of mulch to ornamental beds to smother seedlings. Larger plants can be pulled by hand. Herbicides are most effective on small plants. Summer annual, horseweed is also called mare's tail. If it is not cut, horseweed grows a long single stem that branches at the top. It may grow to 6 feet or more. Horseweed has crowded, dark green, hairy leaves that are smaller toward the top of the stem. In plant beds, small infestations can be pulled by hand. Broadleaf biennial. Bull thistle, also called common thistle, is a large, coarse, spiny winter biennial. During the first year, it grows into a flat rosette of leaves and sends down a large taproot. During the second year, it sends up a central stalk with wings running down the stalk from each side of each leaf. The branches are hairy, and the prickly leaves are hairy on the bottom and smooth on top. The attractive reddish or purple flowers form at the ends of short, prickly, winged stems from June through October. The flower heads are 1 to 2 inches in diameter and surrounded with spiny bracts. The seeds are readily blown about like dandelion seeds. Hand pull in plant beds. Broadleaf perennial. Wood sorrel, sometimes called oxalis, is most obvious during the cool season, but new seedlings also pop up during the summer. The small, bushy, yellow-green plant grows from a central taproot. The stems are slender and sometimes root at the nodes. It blooms from May to September. The 1/2-inch yellow flowers have 5 petals. 1 to 4 flowers appear at the end of each stem. The seed pods are about 1 inch tall and are on slender stalks. When dry, the pods break open suddenly if touched and throw the seed as far as 6 feet. Wood sorrel reproduces from stem pieces as well as from seed. Hoe or hand pull from plant beds. Dock is the common name of a group of 20 species of plants. 2 of these, broadleaf dock and curly dock, are common weeds. Both develop a low, bunchy, flat-topped, rosette of leaves. The flower stalk rises from the center of the basal rosette. In the landscape, spot treatments of contact herbicides are preferred because hand pulling usually breaks off the taproot from which another plant may grow. Poison ivy is a common weed in fields, woods, and landscapes. It climbs up trees using hairy, aerial roots along the stem. The compound leaves have 3 shiny green leaflets. The edges of the leaflets vary. The flowers are yellowish-green and inconspicuous, but the clusters of white, waxy fruit are readily eaten by birds and then spread into landscapes in their droppings. Poison ivy also spreads by rhizomes. Pull or dig small plants by hand while wearing rubber gloves. Larger plants can be cut and the stump painted or treated with a herbicide. Whole plants can be treated with a herbicide as long as no ornamental plants are nearby. Test your knowledge. 1. Mulches. A. Should be applied in layers thicker than 4 inches. B. Should not be used in a landscape. C. Smother new weed seedlings by keeping out light. D. Are always organic. Answer. C. Smother new weed seedlings by keeping out light. 2. Pre-emergence herbicides. A. Control weeds after they germinate. B. Should be applied only in summer months. C. Persist in the soil for 2 months or more. D. Cannot be used in ornamental beds. Answer. C. Persist in the soil for 2 months or more. 3. Post-emergence herbicides. A. Prevent weed seed from germinating. B. Control most plants after they emerge. C. Can damage plants when spray contacts green bark. D. Both B and C. Answer. D. Both B. Control most plants after they emerge. And C. Can damage plants when spray contacts green bark. 4. Which of these weeds will sprout from rhizomes? A. Sandspur. B. Wood sorrel. C. Bermuda grass. D. Bull thistle. Answer. C. Bermuda grass. 5. Which of these weeds is a summer annual grass? A. Dock. B. Bermuda grass. C. Carolina geranium. D. Sandspur. Answer. D. Sandspur.